That was a hilarious meeting last night. That's the funniest I've ever seen. You bought it.
We'll call this workshop to order. The budgets, Jeff Davis County Commissioner, department heads. Mr. Geary.
The first thing I'd like to do is request a vote to allow me to move funds from contingency to cover some unexpected expenses, such as in Julie's office, we had to purchase a copy machine. She didn't have that in her budget. The health department had some roof repairs done, and we've got insurance for the balance of that. And Keith Ray, they had trouble with their air conditioning at the jail. So we need to move. This has never been done in the past that I know about, as far as adjusting these budgets at the end of the year or even during the year the way they should be. In the past, the budget was the budget, and if you went over, then you just looked bad at the end of the year. The way we're planning on doing this going forward is to have money in contingency. If everybody knows that their capital outlay budget was zero, the reason is we put that money in contingency, and if something happens like this at the jail or whatever, we move that money over there to cover it. And just put it in your budget so that you don't look like, well, I went way over budget on this or that, and throw things out of whack. So I'm asking for that vote for this year to make some changes like that. And I want to explain that a little bit to everybody, because that's how we're going to be doing this coming year. So when you notice that zero in capital outlay, instead of trying to guess that this is going to happen or that's not going to happen, in other words, when we allocate it to that, it's tied up and we can't do anything about it, really. But if it stays in contingency, we can move that money where it needs to go. So that's what this is about.
Okay. Y'all all heard Mr. Geary, and we've got some outstanding bills that's going to have to be paid still on this year's budget.
Then the bills you're talking about is on
This year.
This year's
This
budget,
is
year
current
on
year.
it now.
Okay.
And then what he's saying there for 2016 and 17,
It's gonna be a.
it's going to be a contingency, and nobody will have a capital outlay.
No.
And then when something has to be bought, then we will buy it, and then it come out of there.
Yeah, then we'll move the funds and transfer them over to cover it.
I'll make the motion.
You got a motion from Jerry? You got a second from Steve, all vote? Okay.
This is a little bit better than the other way, because then it allows us to take the money and put it wherever we need, where it needs to go. It's a little bit better management of it. And the next thing is, y'all are here to complain. The budgets this year are no different than pretty much, I've been here, this will be my second time going through budgets. Everybody knows that the millage rate has been the same. This will be 4 years in a row. The good news is the county administrator that was there during the first 2 years, you get a bump in revenue, you're going pretty well. The last 2 years, a little different, because as we all know, everything goes up a little bit. So we're still working off the same revenue, not quite the same, because we increased it a couple of $100,000 last year. This year it'll be up about the same, because we anticipate a little bit of an increased revenue, or we're hoping for it. Just remember, when I'm doing budgets like this, I'm having to basically forecast what we think next year is going to be like, and nobody knows that. So we have to try to work it out as best we can. Hope the revenue comes in like it's supposed to, and that everything works. This past year, it's worked pretty well, even though we have some over and some under. But based on the year-to-date numbers through April, we're running under budget a little bit. So that's a good thing. But we sit here now trying to figure out next year, when we still don't even know what this year is going to end up like. And that's a fairly difficult issue. And then the commissioners, we started off with what everybody wanted, like we normally do, because we want to give everybody to have input. And then once we look at that number, they tell me, you know, basically the same thing they told me last year, we're not going to raise taxes. So we go back and try to shave the budgets as best we can and hope that we treat everybody fairly. Basically, we took a percentage off. And I know that there's some things in there that you say, well, the software cost us this, the fees cost the same thing every year, and now you've shaved a little bit off of that. There's no other way to get to the number. You got to take it from somewhere. We didn't take it from salaries. The hopes are that maybe the tax digest is better than we anticipate. We get additional revenue, but even within your own budget, if you're over or under, just like we all are normally in some things, that it'll all work out. It's not that you're not going to have money to pay for that. And one thing I would like to say is that there's nobody come to me, I don't think, can stand up here and tell me that we needed something to take care of county business, maybe with the exception of the road department, that they needed something, because we couldn't afford some of the things they probably need, and we're working on that. But anyway, if somebody has something and a problem, you know, we've taken care of it. So, and that's really what it's about, is making sure that we have everything we need to run the county the most efficient way that we can. So that's where we're at, and y'all are here to let us know if there's something that you absolutely think you need to have. These are the guys to talk to, because I do what they tell me. And so if there's something that you think that maybe we hadn't thought about in here that we should, that's very important, I need to hear that. They need to hear it. I would like to point out something that, how these numbers are very important. When you look at, and I mentioned this at the other meeting, if you look at the 911 that the city had always paid us, so far they owe $209,000. I have to budget for them this year. Last year I didn't know, I thought we would get the money or that something would change. It didn't. This year I have to budget their portion of the bill, which is $146. That's $355,000 right there. And one thing that should be money that the county has that it doesn't, based on what we've been doing or what the past was like. So if you look at, I mean, you can see how that would impact all of these numbers and how much that would help us get back to closer to where, you know, I wouldn't have to be shaving these percents off. The Development Authority, they have to make a bond payment that we're going to have to pay for. That's another $161,000 on top of the $64 we already pay them every year. So, you know, all these little things. People say $8.5 million budget, big money. When you start allocating it and paying salaries and repairs and maintenance and all that sort of thing, it goes away in a hurry. So, anybody got anything?
Yep.
I do, I have some questions. I just want to make sure I'm reading this right. On the one, on this headed back pay, will that be coming out? I seen you got it in a new salary in the new budget, like
Right,
I said.
right.
Is she gonna receive the back pay because it's not in the new amount?
Right, yeah, she'll get the back pay, her next check, yeah.
Okay, that's all.
She didn't get it this week because they have to set all that up and enter everything and get it to the banks on
Right.
Monday. So by the time the meeting came, we didn't.
That's fine, I
you
just
know,
needed.
everything
Felt like
was
a tail.
done. But her next check will include 3 previous pay periods where she should have started with.
Okay,
And then after that, it'll be there.
okay, that sounds
So-
good, just want to make sure. Also on I was going down on our dues and subscriptions, we had 9,300 there. And now you got it at 0. We have annual dues, we have GWO annual dues. Our post office was itemized under that I gave you, so now that's 0, and I'm just thinking about how we're gonna pay that.
It's close to the back. It's in after the bonus of tax.
This is it here. This is where I have it itemized for you.
How much is that total?
I totaled it right, because I see it looks like I took pictometry out, so, but the
Dues and
regular
subscriptions.
stuff will be right here.
See, I had that down as Q Public Software.
1819 is right there, the annual for those,
On my notes, I have that as Q Public Software.
what, on the budget I gave.
Dues and
what-
subscriptions.
These are our annual wind out, that's our support, our computer support, and those GWO dues, just like for Miss Ruth, for her new membership and all that, those don't have to be paid. I mean, pictometry is up to y'all, but I'll have to have the other three items.
So we need 1,600
Actually, it's 1819.
15, 19.
and 325, yeah, 120, and 125.
Okay.
All right, now wait,
You want one?
photography,
He took, that's been taken
That's
out.
mine in there.
okay, just took out and then,
We
y'all.
had 9,300 in there, and it's, they come back to me at zero. And I have copies of the invoices from last year.
You would definitely have that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I make a motion to add these two for a budget,
yeah,
if that's what we're supposed to do.
no, you just have to tell me.
Oh, okay.
Anything else?
Yes, sir. Also,
I'll look at this, and when I get, I mean, because I'm trying to figure out why I didn't catch that, and if I have some questions, I'll call you about it.
okay. And then, on our copier, it was in at $400, and you also put it at zero. Well, we have a contract, I got an invoice now that's gonna be due for July, and it's $460.
Okay.
And that's just a, copy of it.
That's enough expensive.
Yeah.
Right, well, that's the whole point of what I'm making about some of
At
these.
zero.
That's what this week is about.
Yeah.
You know, but I'll tell you something, though, on office supplies, I have $9,000.
Yeah, but we're gonna be cutting it, we got those assessment notes, and that's probably still not even gonna cover that next year.
That really should be changed to something besides office supplies, shouldn't it? In other words,
That's
I'm
just
looking
how
at this
it's
and it
been.
calls it office supplies. I have a note that is tax assessment notices.
Well, it's like that, it's office supplies, it's our personal property notices, it's like our whole, if I'm not mistaken, on that first one I gave you, that budget is broke down.
Mhm.
Yeah, that line item needs to say something about office
Yeah.
supplies.
So that's one of the things that I'm working on, because we have a lot of, we have copy supplies,
have
office supplies, things
broke
like that
down
that
on
need to be.
When I gave it to you, it was
revised.
broke down on it.
Okay.
We can break it down, can't we, Kathy?
Yes,
So,
I got it broke down.
No, she's got it. I've got it.
But yeah, I think coffee machines, yeah, we got to have that.
Okay, and the next thing I have is the school. I tried to relook at it again. We've always had about 10 in there, and it's been cut to 5,000. And there's just no way we have 5 people that have to go to training. I redid it for you, and I put, the 2 mandatory classes that we've got to have, the 3 board members with their 40-hour classes, and really they need to go, at least 1 or 2 needs to go to caveat. And I added that in, I cut it as tight as it could be, and that's 10,250. You got 5 employees having to go to school.
Well, we've got all the hours we need for this year, I believe.
Well, we got 1 board member fixing to go.
Right.
And that's gonna probably be about 2,000 for that fee. And then I've got to go, Heather's got to go, Mr. This is next year now, they'll all have to go.
Right. Because that's the same situation as
They gotta go.
some of the others in terms of contingency. We can move the money there as we see that we need it. The reason I cut that is I know that Mr. Chester's got his hours in for this year, and so has Mr. DeSosa.
But don't have any next year.
Could I just say one thing there?
Yes, sir.
That's hours required now, and Wayne's been in it.
Right.
That
That's
tax,
what I'm going by.
the bills and everything's changed, rather, you better get some education on it, if you're gonna be behind.
She's got mandatory.
I only got 1 40-hour class per person. I did not add any extra, I did not add Jekyll, I did not add anything. training. I didn't have the window seminars that we should go to. I just did
And
the.
it still's 10,500?
Mhm. I mean, you know, that's it, and that was with the cheapest motel at $120 a night.
Well,
And I can tell you this much, y'all were up there yesterday, I'm not going to the party, I'm sitting on the front row trying to comprehend some of that.
It looked like you was having a good time over there.
I did, as soon as I seen y'all, I got left.
that's just, what I'd like to do is, when this meeting's over, then Gary it is, and you are, somebody's over there, it might be around lunch and you can't, but after today, that you and him both sit down and
Yeah.
y'all work it out. I mean,
The
there's no
first-
use in us hanging it back to here, we don't know
No,
what we're talking about.
The first two, the wing gap, SQL, is, like I told you, and that's not even in the budget. We're fixing to have, our computers are fixing, we're fixing to convert over to the SQL, and that is the class that where, if we don't go to that, Heather and I, then nobody's gonna have to run wing gap, it's changing, it's converted, it's gonna be conversion over to that. And that's, and then, like I said, the other was 1 40-hour class per person, I just cut it to that, no jail, no nothing. $5,000 will not cover school. And then that's not counting, you gotta get a new board member,
That's right.
that's another 40. So, I mean, I just hate to come over here, because we had money to a public meeting and ask for money for school.
Well, mandatory and necessary stuff will be, I mean, you get that, I mean, it's not this copier. I mean, I ain't like going with you over there.
No, I'm telling you, as tight as I could.
When, and it's probably a change, just you know, when you go on the first one, when you went on the first time, we went and got our 40-hour class, but then we had a year before we had to, get, 20 more hours or whatever. Now they require you in the first year to get 8 hours, is that what you're saying?
No, what it is like the new board member,
If you-
Mr.
if you
Sayers
get
and
that.
Sheila,
But
they
Wayne,
required to get the 40, those 3 required classes. Trying to get Sheila set up now for.
Yeah, she.
Yeah, I know that y'all said that the other day in your meeting over there, but that's why I was wondering, but I mean, that you got that 40-hour class that you gotta go take then. You got a certain amount of days, 120 days? or
180.
180 days, and all, and then after that, you got other classes that you need to take.
That's right.
And all, but what I'm trying to say, to be into the law, it's not that, I mean, I know they need to know more than what they learned in that 40-hour class. And all, but then but to be legally, and that's what I'm getting at.
Right.
And that 40-hour would carry them into the next year. And so we're talking like,
No,
July.
let me start, if you have, I could go take 3 40-hour classes in 1 year, I could go take them. But you're only gonna get 40 hours credit.
One 40-hour credit. You
That's
got
not gonna
120
carry
hours occurred, but they credit.
That's Department of Revenue, that's just not carrying, you can take all you want. But you're only gonna get that 40-hour credit for carrying over.
but Wayne's right, when I went on board, matter of fact, he pushed me to go into some of the classes. I needed to know more about what was going on over there. And to do the job and do it fair, people need the education. The requirement, yes, it's good, but it don't give you enough to, and that's one thing I just learned at school, try to have better ethics and more clear relationships with y'all. And Gary, instead of this fuss,
We're all
we need
here
to
to
get
work
bottom.
together and try to accomplish what we need to.
But,
And nobody can say that department hasn't been taken care of. I mean,
so just, I just know that 5,000, for school, with 5 of us, and with what's coming up, and like I said, I just had those, the copier and the different things that, we need to put back in there.
And you know me, I'm straight up, and I told you yesterday, you should have been there. I mean, there's some junk coming down.
I mean,
Now, I know it's been 12 years or 10 years or whatever since I've been over there, but that stuff they started talking, they might as well have been talking in a foreign language.
Well, I talked to Rusty in Coffee County. I had several chief appraisers call me, and they're like, Rusty called me, so Kathy, me, and 4 board members were going.
Right.
And we're just, every time we put in to go to school, it's like an issue, so.
Well, I saw one of the older guys that I knew when I was back there, he's a lot older now, I am too. But I don't know, one of the little counties up toward Tennessee, and And they small, some of the counties, you know, join together, two counties in one
At
county.
least a board member and a chief appraiser
Yeah.
needs to go to the caveat. And
The
that's
chief
why I
appraiser
think
always
that
needs
you
to be
better
one, because
to
board members
go.
bring it back, and they bring the little here, and they tell you what they comprehended and got. But, that was, you can ask Chester, he's sitting there.
I didn't tell her all of it.
But, you know,
Why don't you just get with Mr. Gary and y'all go over and see what you need, and then he can,
yeah.
Let us
Well, I
know.
think what I wrote down is, you know, would get us through, you know, if there's anything, if, like I said, the contingency.
And you're estimating some of these costs, I assume? We
Well, I
don't know
took them from
exactly
the
what it's
last-
gonna be, do you?
That's what the room, I called, and that's what basically what we paid last year. That's what I turned in every year, is the cost of the cost, when we turned it in for the year before. But anyway,
Okay.
all right.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay.
I just want to ask, just ask y'all to consider something, and I think this would help, our county administrator. I would like, if this is all possible, when we do the budgets, and he gives them to y'all, and y'all, we need to cut the budgets, I'd like for us to be able to take that budget and cut that ourselves. And then also, if we feel some of those areas that we're gonna cut needs some explanation, then I would give him a statement on each one of those to him and make his job a lot easier.
Well, you're free to cut it as long as it hits the bottom line that we got in there
That's what I'm
now. You
saying.
can rewrite it any way you want.
That's what I'm saying, but if we could get it back for just one day, and then I could, you know, I could look at it in the areas and make those cuts, and then I could give him a statement saying, I cut this area, and I really need something, I need this in the area, but I cut it anyway. And it gives him it makes his job a lot easier. And we, basically, you cut out us having to come in here. I mean, I'm not saying we don't need to be in here, but then we're explaining ours, and it makes his job a lot easier. That's just my opinion, and that's just me looking on the outside looking in.
That'd be good. And
I agree with
like,
that.
if you want to hear that budget today and look over it, and you
Yeah.
see departments that you could cut, this is not final, and we got our gears and everything, and that's really what this is about. And, I mean, we just got the new forms, so Gary and I left yesterday morning, about 5:30, driving to Athens. And, then come back in just evening, and he had to try to finish them up this morning to have them ready and get them all compiled. But if anybody wants to do that, the bottom line is what we got.
Yeah, we-
And you know, I don't run your department, don't know hardly nothing about it. So if you drive a red truck, put my house out if it's on fire, I call it. But before I forget it, let me back up too, because here it says that we wasn't going to raise tax, and we're not going to on the county level, but we are going to bring the hospital board up. And I wouldn't want to say, well, Gary said y'all wasn't gonna do it, and I'm not.
I meant regarding the budget.
Regarding the budget
Yeah,
and
to be
the
clear.
running the county, not even with the road department or whatever, with the things that they need, but the hospital vote's gonna come up, and then we may go up a mill on it. But then I wanted to straighten that out before everybody said, well, now, he sat right there and said we wasn't going up, and now they don't get a
I'm
lot.
not running the
I don't know how y'all feel about it,
It's
but I
their
know
job.
how I feel about having a hospital.
Well, actually, I was gonna get up there and ask for a couple $100,000. I just make this suggestion about the budget. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Charles.
Oh, none of y'all's gonna talk, now all y'all's gonna talk.
Yeah, I
They
thought
just come over- they just
I thought it was
come
gonna
over
work
and-
out.
Chief, the only thing that
Are we jail or sheriff?
we're gonna do sheriff first.
Yes.
It's only $117, but it's an annual support fee, and it's $88.99, and you gave me $87.82. So that's the only issue on the sheriff's office.
Just a few dollars?
Just a few $117. But, now the jail is the other issue, if you wanna go to the jail.
I'll order lunch. We need to order lunch.
No,
It's gonna be detention that's in the front.
So the sheriff, you got $117, right?
Yeah, on the annual support fees, my annual support fees alone is $88.99. And it was $87.82, that's the only issue that I see on that, $117.
Let's see, annual support fees, where is it?
Yeah, at the bottom.
Gary, let's bring it up for the rest. Yesterday, you and I talked about it. But, like where you send some of your guys to go to school, and it's, 150, 200 miles they drive, they don't go and spend the night. And the way that we do it, if they go and come, just like Gary and I did yesterday. And I mean, it didn't cost the county a motel for each one of us, or the same room these days, whatever. And I mean, it didn't cost the county nothing yesterday, we paid for all that and everything else. But I can understand if I'm correct, that your guys, they leave like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and drive to wherever the class is. Some of these classes that I go to, that, and some of them don't, like the one that Brad and I and Gary's going, everyone, I'm sure. And, but they have breakfast out, yesterday morning they did there, but Gary and I, we were late, about 30 minutes before it started off. And you don't have to, but, I had told Gary yesterday that when they go in and we pay for $8 breakfast, rather than a $80 room the night before, and then the next day, all 3 meals, then that's a lot better on the county. And I appreciate them doing it. And,
Well, actually, the way we do ours, if you spend the night in a motel,
Yeah.
you get $25 per diem per
Yeah.
day. And if you just go out of town for a night of town training, you get $15 a day.
yeah.
That's the way we do ours.
What Wayne's talking about though is when you get up early to not have to spend the extra night.
You don't spend that
Then we
night.
should allocate the $25 for that day.
Yeah, we should allocate that $25.
We've struggled with that and we've approved that in a few cases.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and when it happens, I mean, you're saving $100 or $80, say $80, and it costs you but 25. And me personally, when you and I come on the board, if we could drive it 3 hours, we spend the night in our own bed. Same thing Gary and I did yesterday morning, drive the jump around thing, and then turn around and come back and all, and well, that's what, and Brad, and also,
Actually, I have a jailer in training right now, and matter of fact, he graduates today. He's been driving back and forth to Baycross every day.
Yeah, and, well, but then we didn't need to, as I told Gary yesterday, we talked about it, and to do it, and then not let it be out in the public how we do it, and if somebody else wants to do the same thing. I have no problem with the other department, if we're not having to pay that motel bill, and they don't wanna be away from home, then, I think that, when you can change, Ray Charles will see that $25 is cheaper than $100 or $80. And we should give that person the right to where he wants to spend the night at home or go somewhere.
And then the only other issue that we have on our jail budget,
I was not saying the right, I'm sorry, we should give him the opportunity to decide what he wants or her wants to do.
The annual support fees should be 4025, is that it? On the jail.
should be 4025, right?
Okay, what was the other one before I need to make a note?
That was all on jail, wasn't
The first one was on the sheriff's office, this one's on the jail.
But I didn't catch up with you on the sheriff's office.
117
It was just $117, but,
on the sheriff.
I tell you, getting nitpicky.
well, I'm just bringing it to your attention. I just like it at the end of the year.
Well, like I said about some of these, we shaved off some percents across the board, and we knew we knew they were fixed fees, but until I'm told that we got more money, that's the only way I could get to the number, really.
But the jail is just it's the live scan fee, it's $4,025 a year for our live scan. And then the other line item
What line item is that on the jail?
is the annual support fees, 410.
Yeah, I got that one. What's the live scan?
It's live scan, $4,025. That is the annual.
Oh,
support
okay.
fee.
All
That
right.
is the annual
I'm
support
sorry.
fee. You have 3814, it should be 4025.
Yeah.
And then the other issue is the uniform line item, few lines up from the sport fee. The uniforms, you got 5211. The way we do our uniform is, each employee is given $100 a month. We have 8 full-time jailers, part-time don't get uniform. 8 full-time, that would be $9,600 a year. However, we are still 1 employee short at our jail. And we have 2 that we just hired, and when you get hired, Russ, you're on a 6-month probationary period, you don't get that uniform allowance till after your 6 months is completed, then you start accumulating $100. So based on that figure, this year, this coming up year, we're looking at $7,900. And then if we get full staff the following year, it should be $9,600.
Let me ask you now, but they come and they go to work with you for a period of 6 months. All right, but they wear the uniform, so they have to buy their own uniform for the
The
search.
county buys the first 3.
The first, all right, we buy 3 when they first come on board.
Right.
All right, do we send them out and have them clean, or everybody clean their own?
They usually,
Either way,
Usually
everybody
they
people
clean
get
their
to
own.
bring them.
but that's what the uniform allowance is for them to buy other uniforms throughout the year, if they have to have them clean. And that's my own,
So we don't pay a weekly bill like I do with Ty, where we're sent off, fix up uniform.
They have the option to do whichever one they want.
That's right.
Okay,
and most of them just wash them in their own.
yes.
Now come back to the sheriff's and tell me the 107, which one's the line item?
It's the annual support fee, very bottom of the page.
Very last one at zero.
All right, it should be 89.
It should be $88.99.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And the 911, no complaints on the 911.
Anything else, Steve?
Thank y'all. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks, Keith.
Oh, and I agree with everything Charles said too.
Appreciate you got my back.
I got that.
You got anything, Chris? I don't have anything to fuss about.
I thought surely
No.
somebody would have to complain.
No, I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. I'm here to say, like you said earlier, you have big money for a copy machine, and that I really appreciate. For, say for the past 10 years, we've had 3 copy machines in the clerk's office. You know, one has to be a little larger for flats and
Right.
that situation.
That's the one we just bought, right?
Right, which was the most expensive.
Right.
But, and then I think I also talked to you too about maybe next year, we might need another, we're gonna see how it goes. But so far, and we're all in agreement, we're working fine with the 2 we have, because the technology's just better. You can
Yeah.
do more with the 2 that we have, so, you know, as of right now, we're fine. And also, on January 1st of 17, it's gonna be mandatory all plats are e-filed. So that's gonna kind of cut out the size of the larger plats that are gonna be filed. We will no longer be able to accept paper plats bought in, they'll have to be e-filed. We have, let's say this, I'm almost finished my 11th.
Excuse me, you talking about from the surveyor
Yes.
and everything, y'all will not take one?
We, by state law, as of January 1st, we can't accept paper plats, they have to be e-filed. Yes, everything's going to e-filing. We are in the process of, Jeff Davis County is now live with e-filing with child support cases. We're moving towards e-filing our civil cases. We're not quite there yet, the first step is child support, because there's no money involved. But we're also in the process of trying to get online applications for notaries. These options that are available to the clerk's office that haven't, I hate to use the word utilize, but kind of utilized in the past when it comes to
I
technology.
think we understand.
It hasn't been kind of seized and used like it could, but we're getting there. It's a slow process. Just like our, I know that, and I thank you, if you look on the computer support, it's higher than it has been in the last couple of years. Well, in September of 15, we started a computerized proceeding program, which when somebody, like when you go to state court and you're ordered a fine, just say DUI, in Jeff Davis County, your first DUI is $2,016 your fine. That sounds like, oh, that's easy, you know, you just pay one straight fine. That fine is broke up into about 12 entities that get us a
slice it.
portion of that fine. Well, in the past, that was done by hand. Well, just like with the taxes, like Mr. Wayne said, all these changes are coming. Every year, they change the percent of where those fines go. Well, that receiving program keeps up with those percentages changes. So there's less chance for human error where, you know, so we pay the fines out correctly where they go. So that's one reason why our computer support is higher. Also too, conference expenses, and I understand that is zero. You said it's probably in capital outlay where if we, you know, if we have to, in
Well,
December.
did you have any in the past year?
the
Conference expenses?
Well, Ms. Meyer always stayed, and I'm sure Ms. Yulman probably did too. They always stayed, normally it's at the King and Princess St. Simon's, which is a very high-priced hotel. However, this year, I went in April, and I drove back and to from Brunswick every day, because I'm clerk, but I'm also a mother. And my baby, she's still not quite where mama can leave her at night, so I actually drove back and to the spring conference. So, all I had, and I paid for my own meals, because I have to eat every day anyway. And they provided a lot of our meals there at the conference. So the only thing I turned into the county was mileage. And the county did, well, the same day I turned it in, Miss Judy reimbursed me for my mileage. I almost had to turn in a speeding ticket. I stopped for speeding one day.
Wayne County.
I did. I did. But
I done used all my favorites.
well, the trooper, thankfully, he knew me. He just told me to slow down
You
and
should
have a
drive
good
the company car, it's got that emblem on the side, they just ignore you. when you go.
We're out jail free. I promise you, we
day.
do
The
that.
trooper then, he called me about 5 minutes after I pulled off, and he apologized for pulling me over. So, and offered to give me an escort. So that's okay. The only thing I wanted to address was the Board of Equalization. I think it's fine for this year. However, the state is changing the training requirements. A full Board of Equalization for Jeff Davis County is 3 members, 3 alternate members. We have advertised in the Ledger, I think probably 4 times at 4 weeks apiece, to try to get people apply to be on the board. We've got 0 response. And once you apply, then you have to be appointed by the grand jury. After you're appointed, you go for a 40-hour class. And then they've now started an online, you have to do 8 hours of training a year. Well, now that's online. And 2 of our members have used that for the past 2 or 3 years. They do their refresher course online, and it saves the county money. But now, if you're reappointed after your first 3 years, you have to go to a 20-hour class. And so far, that's not available online. We have 2 members that expire in December. So we're gonna have 1 member. We're desperately, I hope those 2 will agree to be put back on the board, because we can get no one else to apply to be on the board. So, but also too, our tax assessors, they work really good with the people who want to go to the Board of Equalization, because a lot of times they work the stuff out before, but then if we do have to have hearings, we had some last year, we only require 1 day. We hold all of our hearings in 1 day. So, you know, we can get it taken care of with 3, but I'm hoping we can get some more members. But in the
So
future,
do you have 3 alternate now?
We do not.
Just only the 3?
we just have 3 members. And we work with their schedules when we know hearings are coming up to try to make sure those 3 members can be there, because we have to have those 3 members to hold the hearings. So, you know, we try to make sure. So far it's worked out, we don't have any alternates, but I'm hoping that we can get some before long. But next year, we may have to readdress that fee just for training requirements, but I think for this coming year, it's fine.
All right, well, that's the purpose of when I actually start with the budgets, I try to look at what we've been spending.
Right.
And then give you something to go by, and that's what I need, is that input on things that are gonna be a little bit different.
Yeah, they just changed the trainer requirements, so
Yeah,
it may require a hotel stay, may not. Hopefully, they'll get it online, where they can take it online,
All right.
so, but other than
I'll always
that,
keep in mind that just like with the copy machine and things that we didn't foresee, it's not like the end of the
Yes.
world. I
yeah,
think that's kind of been mishandled a little bit in the past.
yeah.
And so in terms of something like that, or even training or what have you, then we can reallocate some money to cover it.
And too, in December, I'm gonna have to go to an additional 40-hour new clerk training. And from the information that they've sent out so far, it'll be in St. Simon, so my plan is still to drive back into, I mean, you know, it's a little sacrifice on my part, but I get to be at home at night and take care of the responsibilities I have at home
Like
also.
sleeping in your own bed.
Yes, and
She
making
told
sure.
She told him on what, because the baby wasn't ready for her to be awake. She-
It's more like husband wasn't ready to take on 3 children on his own.
Yeah, that probably.
I don't blame you.
No, that little baby girl throws a kick at things sometimes. She doesn't,
How old is she now?
she is 9 months old. Yes, I was sworn in July 1st. She was born August 19th. So, yes, this past year has been it seems to have flown by. We've had a lot of changes in the clerk's office. I've had a lot of changes personally, adding another child along with new responsibilities, but we're so far.
We got rid of some of that old junk that's in there.
We did, we have cleaned up, we're trying to modernize, we're trying to get it a tad more efficient. So, we're working on there.
Just ask you
Yes.
one simple question before you leave,
Yes.
come down there. If somebody bought some land and they had it surveyed, they just hadn't changed it over yet, and you got it on paper, that they don't have to do it before January the 1st.
Well, see too, now plats, when they're filed with, the paper plats are filed with us, it's also on a CD. So I think they've been preparing the surveyors that it's
Oh, okay,
coming.
okay.
So since they put it on a
Good.
CD, I don't think it'll be that difficult for them to e-file it. So, yeah. But we're getting there.
Thanks, Julie.
You're welcome. Christie's next.
I can tell every one of you, and I know Rhonda's sitting there, any mandatory class or any class that has to be taken, it's got, I mean, we're not even talking about
Yeah.
not paying that. I mean, we know that has to be done. We don't want anybody not to be certified or whatever, and so, and believe me, I mean, to be at the commissioner level here, it's totally different. Because most of those classes that you got to go and you gotta make a grade, and you gotta have a test at the end of it, and when you get elected, we had to go and get that newly elected, but we didn't take no test. They don't know where you qualify now, they just send you on back to go to work. Next.
I don't have any complaints, I'm just sitting and listening. I
Same
can
here.
live, I can live with whatever it looks like that we've got there. I talked with Gary earlier, we gonna have a couple of things that probably gonna kick in. I got by without them this year that I had in the budget. So, we're gonna have to do some filing cabinets. I've got an audit that's, actually a couple of audits that may hit me this year. One of them is possibly with vital records. There's some certain requirements that they have as far as the vault. We may get into some issues with that, but until they get here and tell me exactly what the deal is, we'll proceed on as we're doing. Other than that, I'm good.
I wish everybody had run this year.
Well, the bad thing about that, you may not have to deal with it.
You get along easier. I had to say that.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Yes, Christie, you got anything?
Nope, I'm good.
You good too?
You got anything?
I'm good, it's kind of where we're at. The only question I might have was, like on incident costs or interpreter fees, if we go over that, because we have no idea,
Yeah.
will we be able to pull the funds from somewhere else?
Yeah,
For
that's,
those items also.
yeah, when we get into a situation where we're going, I wouldn't say it'd be worth bothering if it's just a little bit over, but if it's significant, but it's like I was explaining to them, there's so many of these things we can't predict.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
we try, and that's how come the budgets look so inflated the first time around, because everybody wants to put what if. And it would be sweet if we could do that, but we always end up having to go back and but so far, everything seems to be working out pretty good.
What if we send Chris to Spanish school? Chris, is Spanish about the only one you have trouble with?
No, that's right.
But something
I'll
else
think of
too,
something.
I
We've
asked
used
him.
3 or 4 different interpreters for, that's, we don't have a certified
We don't.
interpreter anymore. You have to use a certified interpreter, you don't have access to one of them, you go to a qualified interpreter. We don't really have one of those anymore, so then we have to do all this extra paperwork where we appoint somebody else to do it, and then they have to take this oath that they, are gonna do it. So-
Our local interpreter, Melita Terry, she lost her certification. And so, just for example, where in Superior Court, she gets paid $100 a day to come and interpret, whether she interprets for 1 or 10. Well, in this, our next trial week, we have a case coming with, that involves 5 Hispanics, 3 do not speak English. Well, the Court of Appeals lately has overturned a case because the interpreter was not certified. So, we're gonna have to get a certified interpreter who costs more money, that the county has to absorb that cost, which in turn is supposed to, that's why they issued a fine. So they pay, and the county kind of recoups some of that money, but that's one of the issues that we're running into in Superior and state and juvenile court, and I know magistrate court too, is we're having to pay for that certified interpreter.
Okay, does she want to go back and get recertified?
Last time she tried, she failed the test, because she was nervous.
Do we have
She's older
any-
in age.
Do we have any other people that's over in like Coffee County or somewhere else that we can get on board with that they do it in that other court?
The one we've been utilizing for Superior, State, and Juvenile Court this last 2 months, because our interpreter here in town has been out of the country, she is from Vidalia, and she's very good. And so far, her rates seem reasonable, so, and she is certified, so.
Well, we surely don't
Sylvia Flora.
want to have something turned back because the person wasn't certified.
And that's what
And
we're,
have the whole
you know,
court again.
trying to look out, yeah, because you're just saving that cost.
It's better to pay a little more upfront and not
Yeah.
have to.
We've had to use one that was, I can't remember what language it was now, but she come from close to Atlanta. That's the closest one we could find. And that was, you know, pretty steep, her cost.
Okay, even when you have bond hearings, when they bring them up and you hold it, like, you don't, that's not court, so you don't, well, it is court too, but it's a bond hearing, but do you have to have a certified one even at the bond hearing, or you can get by without that one?
Right now, we're using she works at the hospital and she signs an affidavit, a sworn affidavit saying that she's nothing to that person and she knows the responsibilities, you know, and we can do that now. But if they come in, if that person comes in and says, I want a certified interpreter, we have to honor that.
In state court so far, we've been getting by, we have an interpreter's oath that the interpreter signs that, and that the person recognizes that she's not certified, but, you know, that they agree that they will utilize her services. But in Superior Court, there really is no question, we try to get a certified interpreter.
I use the interpreter's oath and I make them talk with the person just to make sure there's no language barrier issue. And if there's not, and they find we're using her, you know, she signs her oath and signs her responsibility, you know, oath that she knows what she's doing. That's another issue. We just never know when it's going to come up next year.
What does a person have to do to be certified?
There's a test they take through the state certifies them.
Written and verbal.
Yeah.
Who does the health department use? Do y'all know? Do they have to have a certified one?
No.
I think they have an employee there, but we can't use, we're not allowed to use employees. Even if we had an Hispanic, you know, say per se, Hispanic work at the sheriff's department or in our office, we're still not allowed to use them because they're not impartial.
And the lady at the hospital, she has to sign something saying that she has no ties with that person, no ties with the county either.
Right.
Is she
And that
interested?
fee-
in being
And that fee for our office right now is $50 for her service, whether it be, you know, 20 minutes or 2 hours. And that's very, very, very cheap compared to what we had to pay for the lady coming from Atlanta. We paid her fee and her mileage.
About $500.
And the bad thing is, you know, more and more of our population here in the county is increasingly, Hispanic population is increasing, and so.
Probably growing faster than any other
Well, I
policy.
heard one yesterday evening, at this camp up here, and I mean, I don't know no Indian talk, and I don't know Spanish. The words I do know, I learned the Vacaville, and I don't use them. But what I'm saying is, they were talking one I've never heard before yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. It's not Chinese, it wasn't Spanish, it wasn't Indian. I mean, they wasn't much darker than me, but I mean, I didn't know. And I thought myself, what is that? And they didn't, well, they were out, but they didn't have nothing on the head or nothing, but I mean, I thought it was. So it's changing.
It
Well, the
is.
problem we run into is really there's like 2 forms of Spanish.
Yes.
I mean, there's like a formal Spanish and then street Spanish.
They two things English, we down south.
That's right. Very,
And I'm serious,
same principle.
they call it, we call it slang, and they call theirs, start with a P, I can't remember what it was. It's something, but it's something different, and it's their slang language in their country, what we call slang in this country. All right, anything else? All right.
Can,
Gary, you got anything for
No,
us?
that's it.
can I ask a question or two?
Yes, ma'am.
The word on the street is that there's gonna be the property for the jail that we have current was not approved by the state. Is that a true rumor?
I don't know that it was not approved by the state, that I know that Preston had some, problems about it. The train was to derail and go out through where the prisoners may be on the yard. He brought that to our attention, but, I do not know, that where the state says that we could not do it.
Or, I know the splosh is gonna run out in the end of 2017. And that money, there's what, maybe 1.6 million in that splosh account. Is that money gonna have to be spent towards a prison, or are we gonna lose that money that's in there?
We won't lose any of it.
Well, you got to spend it. If I understand splosh right, you got to spend it before that time's up,
See,
correct?
That splosh there is,
Can it roll over?
um,
Because I'm sure 1.6 won't build a prison.
no.
I mean, a jail, not a prison, but a jail.
It only comes, look, that, when it's designated, the one that I understand that you
That's
will
all you
lose.
can spend it on unless you upkeep it.
Yeah. And if splosh, if he got like, out of that 1 cent that comes in, .08, just use, or .10, 10% of it, then it went into that account. And I'm not 100% sure how to answer your question. I don't know if Mr. Gary is either, if it does, he have it, but I know that it can go over. But now, if it was splosh at the end of the thing, at the end of the splosh, when you
End of the
vote 6
referendum.
years, then you turn around and you don't, if it's met the amount that was supposed to go in that account, then you can turn around and decide 3 things. Drop the 1% till it's revoted in for another term, to take and give everybody their portions, or pull it in and use it as county funds. Or pay off bills that since you can't bring it in and decide you're gonna build a wing onto the courthouse. You can pay off bills that have been incurred, past bills that have.
But my whole question, you're not understanding my question. I understand what you do when that amount of money has been met. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is we've collected that money for that specific use, but that project's not even begun yet. So what's gonna happen with that
You can
account?
roll it over.
Part of the December was rolled over.
Rough part of the last ones were rolled over.
Okay.
But that's all it can be spent for, upkeep the jail or build.
Anything else? Meeting dismissed.